a man that spent 9 years with the Steelers, very productive seasons, played in Super Bowl 30, was an All-Pro, and is, I think, one of the best linebackers in team history. And a very nice guy, a great dude above all else. Levon Kirkland is back with us here on Pony and Muller. Levon, 30 years ago, the Steelers drafted you. What do you remember from that experience?
Oh, wow. We know it was the anniversary, but yeah, it was a tremendous, tremendous memory for me, something that I would never forget. I remember being at my sister's home. I remember when the pick came up, I wanted to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers because I met with the team and Bill Cowher, just had a good feeling about the direction that the Steelers were going in. And I remember going to my bathroom and just saying, they're going to pick me, they're going to pick me, they're going to pick me. I sat by the phone at the kitchen table. The phone rings. Tom Donahoe tells me that they're considering picking me, but then Charles Bailey made it official and told me to welcome to the black and gold, and it was a thrill. It really was, man. I was on cloud nine.
I was just going to ask, and it was going to be like a strange question maybe, but like we see now guys on their cell phones. I wondered if you always got the call beforehand, like back. I mean, that's 30 years ago now. I was a kid back then, and I wondered if sometimes guys found out they were drafted like just by seeing it on television, basically.
No, like they called you. They called you like minutes before. They're
Okay.
gonna, before it comes on television. But you got to remember back then, it really wasn't on. Like, the draft wasn't that long. I think I was the last person picked on that Sunday. That's a 38th pick. So it wasn't really, it wasn't really like that. And then a lot of times some guys didn't see each other. Draft was quite different than it is right now.
Levon, you mentioned you visited the Steelers and you came away hoping that you got picked. The Steelers have met with every top quarterback in this draft. How important do you think that visit is from the team's perspective? Like, if you had to guess, a very educated guess because you've been a coach and you've played, what do you think the Steelers were looking to find out in those personal visits with the quarterbacks they took a look at?
Well, they're looking to see if that person may fit into their culture. Will they be a good fit as far as their scheme is concerned? And also, you just want to get a feel of who you're dealing with and, how he's going to, translate as far as his leadership skills, as far as the teammates, especially at a position like the quarterback. So you're looking to get a feel, and you're looking to see something. Sometimes you don't really know exactly what it is, but normally it's an intangible that you hope that will fit into your culture. So, you just want to know the kid.
Levon,
and get an idea.
Sorry. No, I was sorry. I didn't know if you were done there. What I was going to ask you about quarterbacks and about this process and about how much value teams put on it now more than ever. I mean, you were a cornerstone piece of teams and defenses that went to multiple AFC title games, went to a Super Bowl. And fans, I think, because I know I felt this way as a kid growing up, said, if we just had that marquee, that Hall of Famer in the making at quarterback, there would have been some Super Bowl titles there in the 90s. So having gone through that experience as a player, I'm wondering if you think they've got to try to strike right now to get that position taken care of. Or if being a veteran maybe on a really battle-tested team, you'd say, I don't want a rookie to come in here and maybe have to learn the ropes and set us back 1 year so we can take 2 steps forward.
Well, it's all a risk. It just depends on what risk you want to take. Do you want to stay with a veteran guy that may be limited, but maybe you can trust him a little bit more as a game manager? I don't know if that's always the answer. Or do you want to go for your future? And that's not a bad way of looking at it either. But it's all a risk. I mean, no matter what you do, you can't predict the future. You don't know the future. You can just guesstimate. So I guess it's really depending on what you want to be. But in a game where the quarterback is a very important part of it, boy, you can't miss. You can't miss on that position. And if you got a guy that you think is really uber talented and can make it happen for you, and you have an opportunity, maybe I'd say take the risk.
Levon Kirkland, our guest, former Steeler. Do you see a quarterback like that in this draft from your perspective, from what you've seen, Levon?
The only quarterback I see that could be that way is a kid from Liberty. I'm pretty high on him. I think that he's a guy that can be very dynamic. Also, when you have a young quarterback, if he can move very well, if he can run out of the pocket and create first downs, I say why not? Especially when you got pretty much a lot of good things going on as far as your team is concerned. And that's what I see for the Steelers. I think they have a really good defense. They really emphasize the offensive line. They have a good running back. They got some really good wide receivers. So if you can put in a dynamic quarterback who's young, who can move the chains with his legs, why not? And I think this kid can do that.
Levon, if you were just – I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the position of being a starting linebacker on this year's Steelers heading into next season, and you know they've just brought in Mitchell Trubisky, and you know that maybe, hey, we've got a great defense here. We add a big piece at pick 20 somewhere else on the roster. We might have a chance to really make a run. But then they draft, say, Malik Willis, and you think, hey, this kid has a lot of talent, but would there be a part of you that'd be disappointed that the help he would give you is probably a year away? And you're thinking about, hey, we can compete right now if we'd have drafted, I don't know, defensive lineman, a wide receiver, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what would have been going through your mind if that were to happen?
Well, with me, you know, I tend not to assume anything until it starts happening. I mean, you never know until the guy starts to play what he can add to the team. I remember when we had a young Cordell Stewart, and at first you thought, like, man, could this be a wasted draft pick? And then this guy goes on to be Slash and doing all kind of stuff and really helping us get to the Super Bowl that year. So I think you really never know. You just got to wait and see what happens. But as a linebacker, you know, playing the game, I always felt like, you know, I'm going to contribute my part.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my thing. And you just depend on everybody else to do theirs. You can't really start worrying about what other people can do, and you do that, you just get bogged down. So I always was really more concerned about what I can do to help the team win. So that would have been my approach.
Former Steeler Levon Kirkland, our guest here on 93.7 The Fan. He's high on Liberty quarterback Malik Willis, and you brought up he can run it. He can move. He's very, very mobile. What is it about that trait or that skill, Levon, that you think is something you would want and desire in a quarterback today? Why is that important to you?
Because it puts a lot of stress on the defense. If you're playing, I like guys who stay in the pocket or whatever like that and throw and are not mobile. But think about it. If it's 3rd and 10, you got a mobile quarterback who can move those chains. It really spends a lot of the energy of the defense. Now you got to start back over. And you got to keep starting over because even in the ideal situation where you got him 3rd and 15, he can run for 12 yards. Now you got a makeable for 4th and 3. So a quarterback that can run puts a lot more stress on a quarterback who can't run. So that's why I like him, and he's going to get better. He probably, you know, he hasn't even reached his ceiling yet. So he's going to be a better passer. He's going to understand the game a lot better. But a quarterback that can run, they can play right away in a lot of ways, and they can make some good things happen. So that's why I hated running quarterbacks.
I was going to say, given your position in that defense, you were somebody that was going to be asked to spy on those guys or stay at home or make sure they didn't break the pocket and try to get something with their legs, right?
Yeah, but, you know, but then you got to – who's spying, you know? That's a good strategy to say, like, yeah, let's just put a spy on him. But what if he's really faster than I am?
Right. I mean, I would imagine today's game would be.
I don't really make a good spy.
This guy, Willis ran a 4.47. I think you could have kept up with that, Levon. No, 4.47.
Well, you know, the great thing is there's so many bodies in there that I would try to force him to do what I want him to do. But, man, some guys don't do that. They're not great spies.
We're
and they lose track. And the next thing you know, he's going to hit his head on the goalpost because nobody can stop him. Everybody's turning around, all kind of different things. So that's why I think a running quarterback could be dangerous.
We're talking to Levon Kirkland. Hey, what did you think of Kenny Pickett when you saw him this year, Levon? The Pitt quarterback.
You know, I'm high on him as well. I thought he's a good quarterback. He really is. I think that he can go in. I think he can be a starter at some point in time. And I know I know people think about the Dan Marino situation. Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't want to miss out on that. But I don't know if I would put him in my top tier of quarterbacks. I think he's solid. I think he's had a really good career at Pittsburgh. I saw what he did to my Clemson Tigers. So the kid can play. I mean, you really never know what's going to happen. I just don't quite see him as an elite quarterback.
Okay.
Levon, the other guy or another guy that Mike Tomlin has said nice things about a lot earlier in this process, he said, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about maybe taking him because he'll be hugging Roger Goodell a lot earlier than when we pick. Is a guy that would have been, given his position, he would have made your life easier, occupying blockers so you could do your thing. What do you make of Georgia's Jordan Davis, just as a pro prospect in every way? Can this guy play 3 downs? Like, what do you see him being in the pros?
Yeah, he's going to be a very good player. He's going to be a guy that's going to be, you know, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be an impactful player. The dude is big. He can use his hands. He moves extremely well.
Yep.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers won't have a chance to draft him. That's for sure. but I feel like wherever he goes, I think he'll make a good impact. Now, I don't know about all 3 downs. I don't know what kind of pass rusher you're talking about, especially a guy who's going to be a D tackle. But I feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to move the pile. What's the guy from Tampa Bay, the big guy?
Ndamukong Suh?
Vita Vea.
Or Vita Vea. Both.
Vea.
Yeah.
Do you think he's better than Vea coming out?
I do.
I think
I
he's
do.
better than Vea coming out, and I thought a lot about Vea coming in. Vea can play. Vea was a play. I think this Jordan Davis guy is better than Vea, a better prospect.
And I talked to you, Levon, because you love Clemson. You love your alma mater. And they opened the season with Georgia. And I remember you and I had a conversation, and you're like, this Georgia defensive line is unbelievable. You called it back in August, and now another Georgia defensive lineman is going to be the first pick. But it sounds like you think Davis is going to be a stud, right up there with this guy, Walker.
I think Davis is going to be a stud. I mean, do you – like a lot of times you can wonder all you want to, and sometimes we analyze it so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have to. Like, I think that he's going to be – it's obvious, right? I mean, do you watch him play?
I think the big question is, can he keep the weight where –
if you want to say that the SEC is the best, whatever, I thought he put in some great work. I mean, when you're drafting a guy, in my humble opinion –
Yep.
You look at the production. You look at him playing. The question is, can he play? Can he move? He can do both of that. Now, whoever gets him has to do a good job of putting him in the right situation. But by me seeing the film and watching him play, that kid can play. Hopefully you don't go somewhere where he's not getting good coaching. It's not a good team. That's usually the problem. But we both have eyes. I trust my eyes, and that kid can play.
You want to make the case at all, Levon, for a Clemson kid, Andrew Booth? Steelers need corners.
He's a playmaker. The guy makes plays, especially on the ball. Does a good job of intercepting plays. If you go back, you watch the interception he got versus Virginia a couple of years ago. And the kid will come up on the run. He has the heart of a cat burglar. So the only worry, concern is he's been injured.
Okay.
That's the only thing that kind of like, ugh. But besides his injuries, the guy can absolutely play. He can play outside. He can play inside. He can cover your best wide receiver. He has good body control, and he makes plays on the ball. You throw it in his direction, he won't just bat it down. He'll make the interception.
Hey, Levon, before we let you run, one of Chris's favorite topics that he brings up every now and then is he really believes that if Cordell Stewart came into the draft now, he'd be the number 1 overall pick because of what you're talking about, the ability, the physical skill set to be a dual threat quarterback in today's NFL, and they would design offenses for him like the way Baltimore's done with Lamar Jackson. What do you think of that opinion?
Absolutely. Cordell Stewart would have been probably the number 1. Well, I don't know about the number 1, but he would have been in the top 5. Cordell Stewart is one of the best athletes I've ever seen put on a helmet. The guy was absolutely. Why do you think we played him before they were playing dual threat quarterbacks back then?
Yeah.
I just think he's before his time, man. I'm
going to tell you the story was he used to kill us in practice. Cordell Stewart would absolutely eat us up when they would put him at wide receiver. He would eat us up. And I think maybe either Dick LeBeau or Coach Cowher saw it himself and like, we got to play him. We can't have this phenomenal athlete sitting the bench collecting dust when we can use him. And they started using him. Cordell Stewart would have been top 5, no question about it. We got him in the 2nd round.
Yep. Well, Levon,
that was a steal.
Well,
that's a steal.
Well, the Steelers got you in the 2nd round. That was a big-time steal. Give yourself a little bit of credit, Levon. You were a hell of a player that got picked in the 2nd round. And Searcy went ahead of you, and every time he comes on with us, he keeps plugging his cigars that he's trying to sell. You got any products that you're trying to sell right now like him?
I don't have any products that I'm trying to sell like him, but I do. I am with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, and
okay.
One of the things that we do is we educate, empower, and encourage our student athletes.
Very cool.
You know, in South Carolina, we're like 43rd in the nation as far as college and career readiness. We feel like that's a huge problem, so we try to give back to our students and help them, and really help them be successful people, because everybody wants to be successful. Football is a great teacher of life. It gives you a lot of good life skills, and we want to make sure that that population, that niche of student athletes will be more prepared to go out in the workforce in college. So that's the only thing that I really.
That's so cool.
That's good stuff. No, that's good
awesome.
Stuff, man.
You're doing yeoman's work down there, Levon.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yes, Cersei does push those cigars. And I always tell Cersei, man, I was like, dude, I probably should have been 1st round.
I love it.
Been 4 years.
Hey, Levon, thank you. Go ahead.
No, I said Cersei's my guy, but yeah.
Okay.
He was 1st round. I was 2nd round. That was a good class, though. We had Joel Steve in the 3rd round. We had Darren Perry in that class as well. Yep. And then I think Yancey Thigpen came along, too.
That was the start of a heck of a run, Levon. That 92 class, you guys kicked off one heck of a Steelers run, really, that whole decade and beyond.
Yep.
Yeah, we did. Thank you very much.
You bet, Levon. Hey, if we get a Clemson Tiger in this draft or a linebacker, we're going to ask you to come on and give us a scouting report, okay?
I would do the very best I can for you.
Thank you. Levon
Thanks,
Kirkland,
Levon.
everybody. Woo!